He just had to go home early. He can watch the notes on the video. So everyone, if you look up here, that'd be awesome. Don't worry, you'll have time to finish those questions. And I realize now it was 6 multiple choice questions, not 5. But anyway, here we go. We're going to talk about types of information that we're going to be working with in Java. So we're talking about primitive data types. So in programming, you have these things called variables. It's a little bit like algebra, where you have like x equals 7, that kind of thing. We'll do that sort of thing here. But in Java, you have to tell Java what kind of variable a variable is. We don't just have variables that hold numbers like x equals 7. We have variables that can hold text. We have variables that hold whole number integers, so positive or negative numbers and 0 that are whole numbers. We have variables that hold decimal numbers. We also have a variable type that is called a Boolean, which holds literally the value true or the value false. So Boolean is either true or false. In fact, here's those 3 variables, and here's examples of how we would write code to declare them. So if we're going to make a variable to store an integer, a whole number, positive or negative, or 0 whole number, it's called an int or an integer, but we would write int and then whatever the variable name you want to be, and then equals, and then a value. The double variable type is a decimal variable. And then the Boolean variable type is, like I said, true or false. And so it's not text, true or false. It's like the value of true or false, the actuality of it being a true thing or a false thing. You'll see. So these 3 variable types are called primitive variable types. Primitive not meaning backwards, but meaning the most basic, as opposed to more complicated. Here the words got cut off, but more complicated or advanced data types. Down the line, we're going to make a variable that's called a student variable, and the student variable inside of it has other variables like age, grade level, class listing, things like that. So that's like an example of a more complicated custom variable type. All right. When we're printing things, there's something that you're going to run into called concatenation. And that's if you want to print more than one, if you want to print one thing, you just put it in the print call. We were doing that the other day. But if you want to print 2 things, I know several of you took my Python class. If you're going to print 2 things, you'd put a comma between things. But in Java, you have to put a plus sign between things. And then Java concatenates those things, just puts them together. That's what that means. So if you look, here's an example, system.out.print, age, colon, and then there's a plus, and my age variable, plus, and then a new line, and then temperature, colon, and then here's temperature, and a new line, and healthy, and then true or false. So if we look, and you'll have these slides in case you don't have to write everything down, but remember I defined these variables, age, temp, and health, and then now I'm just using them in a print call, and it would print that. So the plus signs up here, 1, 2, 3 different plus signs, four plus signs. They're putting together these different pieces of information. Notice everywhere where I'm using just straight text, Java calls that literal text. It's just in quotes. But then we have variables, and it's okay to put spaces between the plus sign and the variable, or the plus sign and the I kind of feel like I wish I had, just so make it easier to read. I'm not going to fix all of them, but you'll see. It's okay to have spaces. Those spaces don't get printed. A space here after age and the colon, that does get printed because it's inside the quotes. So a plus sign in this context, it's not going to add 2 words together and make like a more powerful word. It's just going to jam them together. That's called concatenation. Any questions so far? Not a big deal. I'm going to ask you today to print different things, and you'll put plus signs. Anyway, can I go on? Print calls can only have one thing in them. So you can't put commas or spaces between things. But when you put a plus sign between different pieces, that in effect turns it into one thing. So this line will not work. Let's take a look. It says age and then comma and then temperature, and then there's a semicolon here. Like this line is so messed up. There are 5 problems in here. I've highlighted them here. You can't have a comma between items. You can't have just a space between items. You can't have a semicolon between items. And you can't do a minus between text, and in this case, that's a Boolean variable. You can't subtract true or false from text. Like that's just, but if we do a plus, it knows to just write true or false. Do I fix this line? I didn't fix it, but if those are all changed to plus signs, it'd be fixed. And you'll have this to look at. So here's another example. I made a chicken count variable 6, double average daily eggs 1.8, Boolean it is Monday equals true, and then I printed all this stuff. I have chicken count chickens, which gives me about average daily eggs per day, and is today Monday? Answer, it is Monday. And so that would print what I put down here. I'm just showing you variables put inside of a print call with text. So you'll be able to look at these things in the slide deck. Is that really the final note? Yeah, it's the final note. Check this one out. System.out.print. I wrote, I have chicken count chickens. And you think, well, that looks great. But look what it does here. I have 6 chickens, and they're all jammed together, right, without spaces. So if you want a space, you have to say it. Like Java doesn't just throw spaces in, which makes sense, right? You'd want it to do what you want, not what it wants. And so if you wanted it to look prettier, you'd put a space here and a space there, like, up here. And then it would print, spaced out, not all jammed together. So, so today I have an assignment called the Day 3 assignment, and I'll post it. It just has you creating some variables and then doing some print calls using the variables, doing some concatenation with plus signs. And for the 2 of you who just joined the class, you should, I'm excusing you from our Day 1 assignment because, and a couple things we did on Friday, but you should do the Day 2 assignment. And there's also a slide deck and notes. You have to learn that material. So, okay, I'm going to post this Day 3 thing. I'll stop the recording. Any questions? There's still